Good morning. How are you all? Good? Good. Are you ready for a great day? Yeah, it's going to be fantastic. So what Mark didn't mention is I've been at Adobe for between 11 and 12 years, which is forever in technology. I like to say I started after high school. And I actually started working on Photoshop. And as you saw, this year is the 25th anniversary of Photoshop. So who out here uses Photoshop, relies on Photoshop, or their teams rely on Photoshop to create design and content? Show of hands? Yeah, there you go. So one of the amazing things about Adobe, and one of the things that we're really proud of and are really honored by, is the amazing use and community that we have around all of our products like Photoshop. And we actually think the best is yet to come for many of the reasons that Mark talked about, because of all of the opportunity and challenges ahead with digital and with the importance of experiences. And we believe at Adobe that we are increasingly living in an era of great experiences. First of all, because so many people are mobile. There's more and more time and more surfaces for experiences, whether it's marketing or whether it's product, right? So not only does everyone have smartphones, more and more people have digital watches. So who here has an Apple Watch? Yep, fewer people, but still growing. I know if I ask that question in 2 years, there'll be a lot more hands up. Who here has Nest or devices at home that used to be completely analog and are now digital, right? So all of those are now clearly more complex, but more potentially interesting experiences where just a couple of years ago they were not. Consumers also expect relevance. When you're connected to the internet, it's possible to give consumers a relevant experience, so they demand it. And in fact, a survey done with both US and UK consumers found that 70% of respondents expect brands that they engage with to give them a personalized experience. That's pretty significant. And then lastly, not only are people connected, but they expect all of these different platforms and all of these different experiences to be connected. So not only are there more surfaces, but consumer expectation is that there will be a kind of connected and consistent experience as they travel across devices. And this is certainly something that we saw with primetime, where television literally used to mean the device on your wall, and now television is the content, right? And you can watch it on mobile, you can watch it on a tablet, you can watch it on a Roku, you can watch it on Apple TV. You can watch television in so many different places. I guarantee you'll be able to watch television on your watch pretty soon. And so consumers expect that as they travel across all of those different devices, they won't have the same experience, because of course that doesn't make sense, but they will have a consistent experience. So as designers, that's a huge opportunity, but also a huge challenge. This statistic, when it came out, definitely had a huge impact at Adobe and the way that we actually look at our business. 40% of today's Fortune 500 companies on the S&P 500 will not exist in 10 years. This is from CNBC. So not that they won't be on the S&P 500, but it's predicted that they actually will be out of business. And this really underscores the pace of change and how disruptive technology can be. So whether it's Uber or whether it's Airbnb or whatever startup is coming next, the fact that the cost of starting a business is lower than it ever has been before, and the ability to scale globally quickly, faster than ever before, means that companies really have to make sure that they have great relationships with their customers and they are providing the best experience that that their customers demand. So we believe that great design is table stakes for this digital transformation. If experiences are critical, clearly the start of a good experience is a well-designed experience. Do you all agree? It's pretty hard to have a good experience without good design. And so an example of this is 70% of consumers actually move away if content is unattractive. I don't think this is surprising. I think all of us ourselves would stop engaging with content if we didn't find it compelling. And so how does design need to evolve, or what's changing about design and content creation to enable it to be kind of a great foundation for companies as they undergo digital transformation? Many things are actually the same, right? Lots doesn't change. Design needs to be compelling. Design needs to be authentic. Design needs to be useful, it needs to be consistent, it needs to be understandable. And I'm sure all of you have your own personal list of what you think are kind of the fundamentals of what makes good design. But clearly what's changing is the complexity and the number of channels that we're designing for. So I actually stole this slide from my colleague John's presentation, and he runs marketing for Europe and actually used to run a lot of marketing and brand in the US as well, globally. And I loved this slide because it underscored from a marketer's perspective all of the channels that Adobe actually thinks about as a marketer. Right? So when I look at this, thinking about it from the content creation standpoint and more of the design standpoint, it's the same. Right? If you're going to market across all of these channels, you have to create content across all of these channels. And this is very different. When I started at Adobe 11 years ago, we had a fraction of the amount of channels and devices and media types that we were creating. So it's not just mobile, it's also video. How many of you are creating more video than you were 5 years ago as a company? We absolutely are. And it's much more effective, it's much more engaging. How many of you are doing much more social media than you were 5 years ago? Right? We certainly are. So what needs to change about design and what obviously changes about content creation in today's world is the speed at which content needs to be created. We hear lots of stories of needing to create landing pages or content the same day or within hours to take advantage of some opportunity that's coming from consumer interest in a product or a marketing campaign. You need a much greater volume of content. I think Mark put it really well. You can only personalize experiences to the extent that you actually have content to create finer and finer grained segments of your audience. And then I put this cross X in here. There's so many crosses that people are talking about today. There's cross media. So not only are people still doing print, and obviously there's as much print as ever before. Print is still incredibly important. Certainly people are engaging with things like newspapers and magazines less, but there are many, many things still being designed and printed. But they're also doing mobile, they're also doing video, they're also, so it's cross-media, it's cross-platform, and it's certainly cross-channel when you think about not only your owned and operated experiences like your website or if you have mobile, but also through social and other channels. So here are some stats that really underscore a lot of the trends that we see and underscore the need for scale and agility in the design and content creation process. So IDC published an info brief that talks about the value of digital asset management in the context of how content is changing. And 85% of respondents said they're under pressure to create assets and deliver campaigns more quickly. 71% said they're creating over 10 times the number of assets today as they were just a couple years ago. And I love this stat. This is actually just a stat from Apple, that there's been a 130% increase in the number of apps available just on the Apple App Store in the past 3 years. So the iPhone's been out since 2007, but just in the past 3 years alone, 130% increase in mobile. So clearly, not only is mobile design really important, but standing out and breaking through with mobile design is really important. So the term that we use for what the scale and agility that our customers are asking us to help with is content velocity, right? Clearly, you still need creativity, you still need great ideas in design, and we believe that our tools have always helped kind of nurture and refine great ideas. We always believe that designers and creatives actually bring the great ideas, and we help bring them to life in our products. But beyond that, not only do you need those great ideas and those really important kind of inspirational moments, but clearly there needs to be much more velocity in how individuals and also teams and your broader team, not just your company, but agency partners and everyone that are working on these campaigns can achieve to bring more products and more experiences to market. So there are 3 things that we think are important, and again, are really driving a lot of how we view Creative Cloud and the investments that we're making in Creative Cloud, which I'll talk about in just a minute. Mobile first. I don't think this will surprise everyone. I like to say mobile first, video second, 3D third. It's obviously not just about mobile, but mobile is such a different paradigm. And we really see companies, successful companies, focusing on getting mobile right. Because it is so disruptive. It's probably the big disruptor today. And you can see that through things like Uber, which turned hailing a taxi into a mobile experience. Rapid iteration and collaboration. I think this is so different. One of the things that is just fundamentally different about digital transformation, whether you're talking about product development, and Adobe has lived this, or whether you're talking about design and content, is it's really taking processes that used to be fairly linear with a beginning and an end, and making them very cyclical, right? It's kind of a consistent theme with digital transformation. So we at Adobe, we used to ship product every 2 years. When I arrived at Adobe, our launch cycle was 24 months. Our launch cycle today, we update our product almost weekly. And it would be unfathomable today for us to have 2-year product cycles. Our website, we used to update our website maybe once a month, maybe. We update our website daily now. So things that used to be very, the product development cycle used to be very waterfall or linear, and now it's completely different. We see the same thing with content. You used to put a campaign or put a designed product into market, and you were done until maybe you did the next campaign or the next product rev. And now we see information and feedback and coming back the next day and evolving the design overnight. And then lastly, thinking about how you scale. We hear a lot of customers talking about strategic insourcing and strategic outsourcing. I think more than ever, it's really important to think about what are the things that you as an agency or a brand need to do yourself, and what are the things that you're going to outsource. And this is very related to one of the reasons why as Adobe, we acquired a stock photography company because we believe that that's an area where we can help you scale your content supply chain. So Creative Cloud. So a couple years ago, Adobe took a very different strategic direction with our creative products. We said, we are not going to be able to help remove friction from the creative workflow through desktop apps alone. Too much is changing. Things need to move so fast that if we actually have our desktop applications that are connected to the cloud, the desktop apps still live on your computer. You're not uploading gigabit files to the cloud to work on them in Photoshop. But if we actually put web services both in the product, accessible from the product, and accessible throughout the experience, that we can help our customers design faster, create content faster, and get that velocity that everyone's asking us for. So how does Creative Cloud remove friction from the creative workflow? So we start with not only the familiar desktop apps that many of you have been using for a long time, like Photoshop and Illustrator, and we've actually added mobile creation apps. So you can now sketch and draw on tablets. You can capture color from phones, and a bunch of other amazing creative abilities that you can do anywhere inspiration strikes you. And you'll learn more about this today. We also have new apps for designing mobile experiences. So it's not just about taking the creative process to mobile devices, but enabling you to create those breakthrough experiences for your customers and consumers. We also have Adobe Stock, as I mentioned before. We now have stock that lives inside the apps themselves. So when you need content, you don't have to go anywhere else. It's right there for you. And it's a great workflow. It means you don't have to re-edit any content. Everything is non-destructive, removing the watermark and any work that you do in the app with images. We also have something that ties all of this together. So we call it Creative Sync. And what that means is all of the assets that every designer uses that are the ingredients of the campaigns or the experiences that you're creating are now seamlessly available across all of the apps. So you can imagine all of your fonts and colors and brushes and everything that you have in Photoshop magically being available in Illustrator without you doing anything other than launching Illustrator, or across teams. So how many of you use style guides, or how many of you, when you have a campaign, have a notion of a set of campaign assets, almost a style guide for a campaign? Is that pretty common? OK. So you can now create style guides in the apps, and you can share them across teams. You can share them between brands and agencies. And you can make sure that everyone working on a project is actually working off of the same set of core assets. We'll talk about that more today. And of course, one of the things that's unique about enterprises is they tend to be larger, and they tend to have unique requirements in terms of how you manage software, how you manage cloud services. And one of the unique advantages of the Creative Cloud for enterprise products specifically is it comes with all of that. Large-scale deployment, everything you need around security and administration. And then lastly, with the demos that you'll see in a couple minutes, we're going to illustrate the integration between Creative and Marketing Cloud. And that's an area that we also are really investing in a lot to help with content velocity. So we believe that designers typically want to have their own creative space, that designers don't necessarily want to spend a lot of time in digital asset management systems. But from a company standpoint, if you can painlessly get all of the content that you're creating into a common asset platform, it helps the company as a whole make sure that everyone can find things later. We hear a lot of problems around reuse and finding content and feeling like you have to rebuild things all the time because someone couldn't find what they needed. We believe that we can help with this problem of moving content through the content lifecycle faster while respecting the individual spaces that both designers and marketers want to work. So we launched Creative Cloud in 2012, and we've had really strong adoption of Creative Cloud in a very short period of time. So in the end of 2012, we had 300,000 subscribers to Creative Cloud. And as of the end of September, I believe, the end of our Q3, actually end of August, we had 5.3 million subscribers to Creative Cloud. So we see a huge amount of adoption of new capabilities like Creative Sync, like the mobile apps, and we hope that, that you are interested in what you see today. So as I mentioned, Creative Cloud is still the best creative apps in the world. The way that Creative Cloud works is also you get access to everything. So if you're doing more video, again, we hear a lot of companies doing more video, you have all of Adobe's video editing tools available to you. If you are interested in mobile prototyping, that we'll talk about in a second, that is just available to you as part of your Creative Cloud subscription. So the other thing that's changed about Creative Cloud is how we make it available. You're not choosing kind of between applications or between services. We want to make sure that you have everything that you need, and it really is a creative environment or a creative platform. Project Comet. So we are bringing to market in early 2016. We talked about this at Max. So if you're interested in learning more, there are lots of videos available on YouTube and demos. Project Comet is a new desktop app that will, again, launch in early 2016 that enables you to design and prototype websites and mobile apps faster than ever before. So what's particularly unique about this app is not just all of the integration with Photoshop and all of the integration with other Creative Cloud services, things like Typekit and fonts, but it also is what we believe is a really all-in-one solution for experienced designers, whether it's wireframing, visual design, prototyping, previewing, and really importantly, being able to share mobile prototypes with the people that need to help you iterate on that design. We're getting a lot of interest in Project Comet, so definitely check that out. You'll hear more about this later today. Photoshop Sketch, expressive painting and sketching tools with realistic tools. So we are moving from being able to design great mobile experiences to bringing the creative process to a tablet. This brings the creative process to a tablet, and with the new iPad Pro and the new Pencil, it is astonishing what you're able to accomplish on a tablet with things like watercolor, and it's almost like paper. Scalable vector illustration with layers. So again, Illustrator Draw, another tablet experience. And this is a little bit more of a conceptual look again at Creative Sync. You'll see this in action today. But think about all of the elements of things that you use for design every day. Colors, fonts, brushes, images, the list goes on and on. If you can imagine being able to organize those into what we call libraries, and then having those instantly available between a mobile app like Photoshop Sketch, as you go from ideation and sketching something into Photoshop, you have the same colors, brushes, fonts, everything instantly available to you in Photoshop, or between, as I mentioned before, Photoshop and Illustrator, or between mobile to mobile, Sketch to Illustrator. And then what's really interesting is being able to share these digital style guides effectively across teams. And you'll see this in a video that we're going to show in a moment. But being able to share them between headquarters and global teams to give them flexibility. One of the things that David Butler will talk about in a minute that really resonates with me is being able to identify the elements of what needs to stay fixed and being able to identify the elements of what needs to be flexible in order to scale and grow quickly. And one of the things that we think helps scale content is identifying effectively those style guides, the things that need to stay fixed. So for example, Target, the US retailer, people familiar with Target? It's a pretty big retailer in the US. They just redesigned their mobile app, and the team working on that took all of the consistent visual elements that were going to be on the thousands of pages. You can imagine how extensive Target's mobile app is from a page standpoint. And they put those all in libraries and shared them across the team designing it. And so all they had to do was drag and drop onto the canvas. So this is really powerful, and we encourage you to read about it. There's also sharing capabilities, but it's way beyond something like Dropbox. We have collaboration and sharing capabilities like Dropbox, but what really differentiates it is that it brings all of the core assets that you need into your apps and across teams. So let's take a look at the video at how some customers are using this today.
For us, without Creative Cloud, we wouldn't be able to do pretty much any of our work, from Photoshop to Illustrator. It's the foundation of everything we do.
Finally, we can connect artists together. We can have them share elements, and they can have everything that they need at their fingertips.
Creative Cloud really helps people work the way that they want to work, given the diverse time zones that we're in and cultures, and it's really important that people have that freedom to work the way in which makes them most successful.
Branding is key in everything we do, and we have guidelines, obviously, as an enterprise. One of the challenges is trying to let all of our designers know what those guidelines are and stay true to them.
Uber's spread out all over the world, and we have small teams in each region, each city, and we're constantly onboarding new people. There's some challenges in maintaining consistency in terms of the brand experience, and it can be a brand manager's nightmare.
Our graphics are constantly evolving and trying to stay one step ahead of ourselves. Before libraries, we would store everything on a local server and then hope that everyone's pulling the latest version.
We were using anything from a USB stick, email attachments, but if some people's email was too filled up, the USB stick was lost along the way.
The tools that Adobe provides us with, Creative Sync and the entire Creative Cloud, allows us to build a library for all of the brand elements. It allows all of these different teams to instantly drag files into Creative Cloud libraries.
It just saves time, it's more efficient, and it allows for more real-time changes to occur.
We have a large set of team logos for every single sport, and when we want to update one of those logos, we just have to change it, one place, and it just gets updated everywhere.
The one thing that I've noticed as we've integrated Creative Cloud the past couple of years is the efficiencies across my entire organization and how that's translated into a higher ROI for us.
We're incredibly excited about how having Creative Sync and having creative libraries will allow us to onboard people a lot faster.
It enables our teams to be efficient, to do great work, and that's really critical for us in our success.
I definitely see Creative Cloud having huge potential for the future.
It not only saves us valuable resources, but it allows us to move on to the next project that much quicker.
And it allows us more time for actually creative freedom and working the project and getting the best possible asset that we can create out of this.
Great. Hopefully that resonated with all of you. Some of the things that your teams might be doing today, USB sticks, email, et cetera. And lastly, I wanted to touch on Adobe Stock. We acquired Fotolia, which is actually a company based in France about almost a year ago, exactly. And we've now integrated that all into apps, our creative apps. So you can actually search for stock directly within Photoshop and see the results. If you've already licensed something, people within your company can actually already see what's already been licensed. So again, you don't have to reuse or rebuy similar content across teams. and it's really amazing content. We have a lot of contributors from our photography community. You can imagine Lightroom, Photoshop, so there's a lot of turnover and freshness to the content. So not only is the library growing, but it is great content that is fresh and we think getting better every day. So we encourage you to check out Adobe Stock. And lastly, as Mark mentioned earlier, one of the things that is really important to us as a company is engaging with our customers. And all of you are critical to how we develop our products. So I highly encourage you to find people from Adobe today. I'll be here for most of the morning. And tell us what challenges you're dealing with. If this resonates with you, if there are other areas that you want to see Adobe investing, again, we think there's just so much opportunity that design has never been more important, and yet there are challenges and ways that we need to help the design community and global brands and agencies work differently to take advantage of all of the opportunity that digital and mobile and all of these new platforms and surfaces give all of us. So we thank you for coming today and look forward to continuing the conversation. Thank you.